Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, it's been a while since we checked on the progress of the US proxy war against Europe, otherwise known as the Ukraine war. So let's see how it's going. Now I'm going to focus on Germany because, as I've said before, Germany is the economic engine of Europe, and as such, undermining Germany has been the strategic priority of the US. Well, on that front, a few things have happened in Germany since we last checked, including an attempted coup plot to overthrow the government of Germany. Now, how serious that really was, who knows? To what extent this coup plot was exaggerated by the government of Germany as a tactic to justify a crackdown on opposition and as a diversion from the energy crisis, and to what extent the coup plotters posed a genuine serious threat to the government of Germany, is hard to say. But either way, an attempted coup plot to overthrow the government and a crackdown on opposition, both of these things do not speak well for the stability of Germany. Polls in Germany show that roughly 2/3 of the population are dissatisfied with the ruling coalition. And a growing segment of the population appears to feel, increasingly, that Germany is committing economic suicide by going along with the US-led EU sanctions against Russia. Because, of course, this has caused an unprecedented energy crisis in Germany, leading to cascading failures across the entire German economy. For example, German consumers are going to be paying approximately 112% more for natural gas next year than last year, and about 44% more for electricity. The cost for heating their home and keeping the lights on is going to run into the thousands of euros every month. Now, obviously, this also will apply to industrial production, making the cost of manufacturing in Germany more and more expensive. Now, in Germany and across the EU, the government has tried to support industry financially in the wake of this energy crisis, which has resulted in the total energy bill for Europe reaching up to $1 trillion. Now, Germany has been able to maintain manufacturing at a higher rate than expected, which is to say, manufacturing has decreased slightly less than what analysts were anticipating. But this comes at an enormous cost, and the energy crisis is far from over. Conservative estimates are that energy prices in Europe will continue to rise for at least the next 3 to 5 years, which means this is completely unsustainable. I mean, winter this year has barely even started in Europe. Despite Germany having successfully replenished most of its natural gas reserves and its oil reserves, and despite having penned an agreement with Qatar for the delivery of natural gas, which is actually kind of irrelevant for this winter since it's actually not going to start shipping natural gas until 2026. But they've made some adjustments, they've made some arrangements, and they're in a relatively good position as of a few weeks ago. But Germany is in dire straits. I mean, even the reserves that they have replenished, those have already decreased just in the days prior to Christmas due to frost. And the Federal Grid Agency is warning that German consumers are going to have to reduce their consumption of natural gas by 20% if they're going to survive this winter. And even that Qatar deal, even though it's not actually going to start bringing gas into Germany until 2026, even that deal is in jeopardy because the EU Parliament is embroiled now in a scandal over corruption in terms of lobbying, Qatar lobbyists bribing EU parliamentarians. So as a result of that, the EU Parliament has banned Qatar from lobbying. In response to that, Qatar has said, okay, if you're going to ban our lobbyists from lobbying for our interests in the EU Parliament, then this is going to affect our bilateral relations, including the delivery of natural gas. That deal with Qatar, there was a lot of hype about it and how it was sort of saving the day for Germany. Like I said, a lot of people didn't know that it wasn't going to actually start happening until 2026, and it's only going to cover about 3% of Germany's natural gas needs. But still, jeopardizing that is just that much less energy security that Germany has. Now, Germany is also facing, as I've said many times, a demographic collapse. They're running out of workers. So the government is doing everything they can to discourage retirement, and they're trying to get workers to keep working longer as they age, and they're incentivizing immigration to try to keep their labor pool from completely evaporating. But meanwhile, while they're telling the German people you have to work until your old age, and we have to bring people in to work, we can't support you anymore. The German government is saying, various social programs and relief packages and things that we're giving to people because of inflation and because of the energy crisis, we can't keep doing that. They're even being forced to lift price caps on children's medicine because the medicine is getting too expensive to produce because of the energy crisis. So they want to be able to charge more money for children's medicine because otherwise they're literally running out of medicine. And of course, the only reason that they're actually running out of medicine is because of the profit motive, because the pharmaceutical industry doesn't like the price caps. So you see, Europe as a whole, and Germany, again, as the economic engine of Europe, are being subjugated by the owners and controllers of global financialized capital. And the leaders in Europe are going along with that because they are not loyal to their nations. They're loyal to their owners. And they're backing the imposition of corporate feudalism on their own countries and on their own populations because they believe, and probably rightly so, that they will enjoy a favorable position within that new feudal system, regardless of how devastating, how exploitative, how oppressive it is for the population. But you see, this is how things inevitably go when you allow in your society two competing power structures, the state and private sector power. And when the second of the two, private sector power, is allowed to grow and expand without restriction, eventually it will infiltrate, dominate, and subjugate the state. At which point it doesn't really matter what sort of system of government you have, if it's a democracy or a dictatorship, because the real controlling power is beyond the pale of government. It's private sector power. It's unelected, it's unaccountable, and it's unstoppable by the existing mechanisms of political control. See, the West insisted on the separation of church and state, only to replace it with the conjoining of business and the state. America revolted against the monarchy, only to replace it with an oligarchy. They've taken a path, the West collectively has taken a path that has led to the complete disintegration of any social contract, any sense of moral obligation, or any loyalty between the rulers and the ruled. The rise and reign of the West has been an historical anomaly. It's an experiment, and that experiment is coming to an end, and it is a failure. All they have done, finally, is to recreate the same old, oppressive, corrupt, exploitative system that they always had, only this time on steroids and on a global scale. Jazakumullahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum.